the division is blown up in the media and in social media in particular. I think there's a lot of trolling and I think there's a lot of exaggeration and BS, because I think if you talk to people one-on-one, you get kind of a different perspective, like even from people I don't agree with. I don't feel like the kind of hate you get online in different sides of the aisles.
I don't know whether or not we can ever be united. I think there will always be a divide. As long as organized religion is able to create narratives that marginalize people like me, there'll never be harmony.
I think our country is very divided.
I think right now we're incredibly divided, and I've been thinking a lot about that lately and how we got here, how we got to this place where everybody is getting information from such disparate sources.
Social media is a big thing. Misinformation is a very big thing.
It's very divided, and I think a lot has to do with the president right now. I think there's so much white supremacy going on, a lot of racism. It's very scary because I feel like we're going backwards.
I think that the divisions are exploited by certain religious organizations and certainly the people who own the country, which is the 1%. You know, it's always been divide and conquer. Back to Roman times, when you read about the Roman politics, there's no difference, absolutely no difference.
Fake news is a very big thing. Miscomprehension is a very big thing. And I feel social media is sort of like a conduit to bring that misinformation to the masses.
I think it's our access to information and our access to other viewpoints that has sort of blown open the bubble that we've all lived in. You know, in New York, we live in our own little bubble. In the South, they live in their own little bubble.
Whether it's gay marriage, whether it's abortion, whether it's somebody's religion, and they find a talking point and they exacerbate the situation, and the people who really aren't clued in are just fed this propaganda.
The income inequality has divided us ridiculously so. Somehow we need to lift the veil behind everyone's eyes to the fact that, holy shit, Amazon, as big as a company it is, doesn't pay taxes effectively, and I'm paying taxes, and I'm poor. That's the type of evil that we have in this world, and this greed.
It's always been here. I mean, you know, what do the people in North Carolina say? It's about the Civil War. It's a rich man's war and a poor man's fight. You know, basically, a lot of the division, I believe, is ignorance, and I think that's encouraged because ignorance goes directly into fear. You know, when you don't know about others, that's when you start fearing others.
It's disconcerting in many ways. For me, especially as somebody who's queer, I don't get to just travel anywhere without consequence or consideration. I have to think about where I'm going to go. I have to make sure that they have communities within those areas that will make me feel comfortable and safe.
When I started working after college, I was working for a company that had a factory down in northern Arkansas. I went out with a batch of people one night who felt for the horns on my head. Think about that for a moment. They still believe that Jews have horns.
If you have enough people believing in something, then others may feel, oh, they must be right, since you have 100+ people saying and believing this. So
My family, they're very conservative, Christian, Republican, and they get their news sources from completely different places than I do. But the interesting thing is, they're such good human beings, like my family, and I feel like if we could remind each other of we're all humans and, you know, we actually have a lot more similarities than differences.
I think in order to come together, I think people need to step back and try to have more compassion. People are very tense and scared, and I think it's going to take a lot of breathing and meditating and thinking and compassion and listening and empathy.
What just popped into my mind, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Watchmen. I I forget his name, something with a V. He drops a gigantic fucking alien squid on New York City, and that's what brings the United States together. And like, it might take something crazy. It might take a greater enemy than ourselves to actually bring us together.
When we challenge beliefs, belief systems, our amygdalas are actually activated. You literally go into fight or flight experience, right? Like going into conversations and knowing that challenging somebody's beliefs is going to elicit such a strong reaction. I think maybe being able to tread a little lighter when going into those and knowing that you're gonna have that kind of a response, or you're gonna feel that kind of a response. Maybe that's a way to kind of mitigate the stress and anxiety of having those conversations.
It's kind of funny, but not funny to say, but I think if people went out more and interacted with other people more and was able to put their own feelings and emotions to the side, to hear out the person in front of them, take them for who they are as an individual, I feel, that is the key. But we all have our biases and we all have our emotions that we cling to, and I feel like that's really preventing us from uniting with each other. Put your emotions aside, put your thoughts aside, and listen to the person in front of you.
The two candidates that sort of lead the charge for me would be Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren.
It's Liz and Bernie. They're the only two who are really addressing all of those issues.
Bernie Sanders would definitely go after those things. Elizabeth Warren would likely go after those things.
I want to say Elizabeth Warren because can we all just admit that women are getting shit done and women are the ones who are going to run this a lot better than the men who have been doing it for the last few hundred years?
I don't think any of the politicians are going to actually go after these big issues. I think a lot of them talk a big game.
I definitely believe Bernie Sanders will attack all those issues. He stands up for the prison reform, climate change. He wants universal health care for everyone. He wants to cancel all student debt. So he really is fighting for us.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Cenk Uygur. Those are the types of people that I have full confidence that would try to end privatized prisons, bring a resounding end, hopefully, to the climate crisis, bring Medicare for all.
Do I think that even if they were elected that they could accomplish much? No, but at least it's a start to talk about it, to get moving some way in those directions. If you don't even address the critical issues, nothing will ever be done, and we'll be in a worse situation.
I mean, any progressive would do it, but Bernie would be the one to lead it, especially being someone that's already part of his campaign, and he's already been going after that with the Green New Deal that he's worked on with AOC.
But I don't believe any of them, really. I want to. I really want to. I'm really frustrated. And I hate it because I want to participate, but there's so many people in this country who are not safe. And I wish that there were candidates who were actually pushing the safety of regular people, everyday people.
A lot of these things it's not radical, it's not bizarre. These are rights for us.
The CDC has been unfinanced. There's 700 jobs in the CDC that are going unfilled because Trump doesn't want to deal with scientists or the CDC or spend money on stuff like that. Coronavirus, we need the CDC desperately. We're not going to have it.
All of the things that are put out there by the politicians, they can talk about it, but they're going to meet roadblocks once in office, and we just need to recognize that.
It's going to need to be more than just the president. Like, we need to have both houses of Congress in line in order to pass those kinds of legislations. So hopefully people will get out and vote and flip the Senate as well as the White House.
Quite candidly, I will vote for whichever Democratic candidate gets the nomination because that's the most important thing.
I'm looking at my children and grandchildren and saying, they'll never have as good a lifestyle as I will. And my lifestyle isn't great, but no parent wants to see their child not doing as well as them. You want to see them doing better than you, and it's not in the cards.
It's pretty obvious who is more in need of help. To be honest, I'm not even sure how we can juxtapose individual human beings with corporations.
Ooh, welfare to help the poor, because I don't feel corporations need it. Give it to the little guy.
That's a great question. Are we better off providing welfare to corporations? Hell no.
The poor, 100%. I don't even know if that's a question.
I think we're way better off providing welfare to help the poor than we are to help corporations.
No corporate welfare, none, zip. We spend trillions on corporate welfare and fractions of billions on public welfare. I mean, that's such an absurd notion.
And when we genuinely assist the American people and lift them up, we then invigorate what is truly the economy in my mind. The economy is not necessarily these businesses. The economy is the American people.
I mean, this is ridiculous. I pay so much taxes, and the fact that, all of these companies don't pay taxes? Screw that.
As it is, since the corporations own the government, the corporations get their money back after they've invested it in the politicians. And that's what it's all about.
So we have people who are struggling to stay alive or to stay healthy versus businesses, which are entirely different entities.
Think of it in like a bar graph sort of way. The poor and the needy are kind of like down there, and corporations are kind of, through the roof.
Maybe there could be a balance. I don't believe that. I take that back. But I can't even begin to think of what the rules for that should look like or what the qualifications for that should look like. But there should absolutely be no qualifications on taking care of a person.
The amount that we are essentially giving to corporations so that they continue to exploit us is egregious. If we took half of that money away, we'd be able to take care of every issue that we have in this country today. Homelessness would not exist. Healthcare would be free. College could be free.
They've forgotten who they've worked for, who they're supposed to be working for, and that's the electorate, not the corporations. And growing up, I think that from the Nixon generation of politicians on, it's only gotten worse and worse and worse every year. And both parties are to blame.
So crazy that there are some Americans that somehow believe that giving corporations tax breaks and kickbacks is somehow going to benefit them. I just want to shake them and be like, do you see what's happening? They're just stealing from us and making it harder for us to have a voice.